All right, let's dive in. We're going to talk about a man who, on the surface, sold bananas, but behind the scenes, he was the spiritual guardian for an entire city. This is the truly incredible story of the hidden saint of Jerusalem.
So we're talking about a man who lived this incredible paradox. The quote here says it all. He was a postal worker, a simple laborer. But at the same time, he was seen as one of the greatest hidden saints of his era. We're talking about Rabbi Zion Bracha. And his story? It just completely redefines what you and I might think of as greatness.
Okay, so how does that even work? A banana seller who's also a mystic? It sounds impossible, right? Well, to really get it, we've got to look at the two sides of his life. Because when you see them side by side, the contrast it's just astonishing.
And this right here really lays it all out. Look at that contrast. On one side, you've got his public life, a postal worker, selling bananas in the market. To anyone who saw him, he was just another humble merchant. But here's the thing. That was all by design. He'd rush through his work, sometimes even selling his bananas for half price, just so he could get to the other side of his life, being a master Kabbalist, a spiritual protector, someone completely devoted to studying Torah.
And that simple exterior, it wasn't some kind of disguise. It was actually central to his whole spiritual practice. He truly believed that real spiritual power wasn't about being in the spotlight. It was found in humility. So behind this veil of a totally ordinary life was one of the most revered hidden mystics of the 20th century. Incredible.
So you have to ask yourself, what on earth would drive someone to live like this? To balance these two completely different worlds? What could possibly fuel that kind of demanding double life? Well, it all boils down to one really powerful Hebrew concept.
And that concept is Mesirat Nefesh. Honestly, if you can grasp this one idea, you've basically got the key to understanding his entire life.
So what does that mean? Mesirat Nefesh literally translates to giving of the soul. And we're not talking about a small sacrifice here. This is a deep, profound level of self-sacrifice. For Rabbi Bracha, this wasn't something he did once in a while. No, it was his entire operating system. Every single banana he sold, every letter he delivered, it was all part of this much bigger mission to give his very soul for his community and for God.
And here's a perfect story that shows this in action. He had this vision, right? He wanted to start a yeshiva, a school for Torah study, but not for full-time students. He wanted it for working guys, for the merchants. So where does he go? He goes straight into the heart of the bustling Makayuda market. He goes up to these shopkeepers one by one and makes this absolutely unbelievable pitch. He says, "Come study with me, and I promise you, your livelihood will be protected." Think about that. He's not asking for a donation. He's asking for their time. And in return, he's offering them a spiritual guarantee.
Now, this kind of dedication, it didn't stop at the marketplace. It poured into his spiritual practice, especially his prayer. And when I say prayer, don't picture some quiet, passive meditation. For Rabbi Bracha, it was more like an all-out spiritual battle. They called them his prayers of fire. Just look at the difference here. For most people, prayer is quiet. It's contemplated. For him, it was intense. It was fiery. Get this, a single prayer, the Amidah, which for most of us takes, a few minutes? For him, it could last 3 or even 4 hours. This was way beyond just mental focus. We're talking about a physically draining, spiritual marathon every single time.
And people who saw him, they said it was very, very hard to look at the great light that just seemed to pour out of him when he prayed. He would finish, and his entire body would be drenched in sweat, like he'd just run a race. That was the physical proof of the insane spiritual energy he was channeling.
To him, words weren't just words. He actually called each blessing a diamond. Think about that. Every single blessing was a precious, perfect jewel that he was offering up. He felt the weight and the value of every single word so deeply that he would often just weep while he was reciting them, totally overcome by the sheer spiritual power of what he was doing.
So all of this intense spiritual energy, it wasn't just for himself. It wasn't about his own personal spiritual journey. No, he was directing it outwards. He was basically acting as a secret guardian for his entire community.
And that energy, it became a shield. So let me set the scene for you. This story takes place during a really dangerous time. The neighborhood of Gilo in Jerusalem was under constant sniper fire from nearby Bethlehem. Can you just imagine the fear? The constant threat those people were living under every single day?
But while the city was asleep, thinking they were alone, Rabbi Bracha was at work. Every single night, at exactly midnight, he would secretly make his way to a specific spot right on the edge of the city, putting himself right in the line of fire, right in the danger zone.
And there, in that really vulnerable place, he would start his work. And he wasn't just saying some prayers. He was performing these incredibly deep, complex Kabbalistic meditations called kavanot. The best way to think of it is like highly focused spiritual lasers. He was channeling every ounce of his energy with one very specific goal: to create a spiritual shield over the people of Jerusalem.
And the most incredible part? Nobody knew. Nobody had any idea he was doing this. It was only much later that people started to piece it all together, to figure out what he had been doing every night. They realized that he had, on his own, appointed himself as their hidden guardian, literally weaving a protective shield over their homes with his prayers while they slept. It's just wow.
So yeah, he lived his life in humility, completely hidden from the public eye. But Rabbi Zion Bracha left behind this profound legacy of light. And it's a legacy that is still shining so brightly today.
And his impact isn't just a nice story, it's tangible. You can see it. The yeshiva he started for those working guys, it's still thriving in Jerusalem. His son grew up to become a major Torah scholar himself, leading a huge yeshiva. But maybe his greatest legacy, it's just the example he set. It's in that unconditional love he had for everyone, promising to love even the worst sinner until they found their way back. And then there's his final act. I mean, talk about selflessness. In his last year, he gave away every single penny he had to the poor. He left this world with literally nothing but the clothes on his back.
And that really leaves us with a powerful question, doesn't it? His story kind of challenges all of us to look past the surface, not just in other people, but in ourselves too. It makes you wonder, what hidden greatness is just waiting inside a seemingly simple life, and what kind of incredible impact is just sitting there, dormant, waiting for us to unlock it with a little bit of humility, devotion, and that kind of selfless love.